I should have gone to the toilet before I got on stage because I now desperately need it. So we're going to whiz through this and maybe we'll have some time at the end for questions before I run away. Feedback, welcome. Tweet me at Depledge. So, who am I? I'm Alex Depledge. I am the CEO and founder of Hassle.com. Hassle.com is Europe's largest domestic cleaning marketplace. Very sexy. Just what I wanted to do when I grew up. But 5 years ago, when we were starting out on this journey, Uber didn't really exist. Well, it did in San Francisco, but not here. And we didn't have the Uber for X or the Uber for Y. And so, although, you know, booking a cleaner on a marketplace in 60 seconds sounds very simple and sounds very sort of easy and obvious, 3 or 4 years ago, it really wasn't. And so what Herb asked me to do in light of the startups that we've just, very good startups that we've just seen, I've really liked them actually, present was try and give you a bit of an insight into what it's like to build a startup, a fast-growing startup. And basically the way that I describe it is, imagine a swan on a lake, and that's what I look like, for all intents and purposes, to the rest of the world. But underneath, as in inside my business, I'm furiously paddling like hell below the water to try and keep my head above water. And so what I thought I'd do is take you through a little bit about that journey. So I'm not from Newcastle, but I am from Bradford, so I'm a good northern lass. And at 18, all I wanted to do was get out of Dodge. So I went to Nottingham University, and from there I moved out to Chicago and went to school there. And I never, ever really knew what I wanted to do. So when I came back to London in 2006, I joined Accenture because I thought consultants kind of did a bit of everything, and I would be able to try and figure out, you know, like what I enjoyed. And I spent 7 awesome years there, and I still didn't know what I wanted to do at the end of it anyway. But I mentioned Accenture because it was really instrumental in the kind of training that I got and the kind of thought process that I went through. And it was also instrumental because I spent my first 18 months in this glorious town of Warrington, famous for Kerry Katona, but also famous for the little-known European's largest under-18 nightclub, Mr. Smith's, that we did go to on a frequent basis. And really, not just being my first project, it's also where I met the love of my life, Jules Coleman, not my husband. Jules is my best friend, and she's also my co-founder, along with our obligatory male co-founder of Tom. Awesome, great, but we thought we needed a bit of gravitas, so we better get some males in there, so Tom came on board too. And we got thrown together in corporate accommodation, as you do, and otherwise I don't actually think we'd be friends because we're totally different. Jules is bright, quiet, small, and Irish. I'm loud, northern. I don't know, I'm not really tall, but can be obnoxious at times and generally quite a disruptive character. So we're total opposites, but for some reason we really work. And when we were living together, we both realized that we had a passion to start a business. There was no tech city back then. There was no Silicon Roundabout. There was no glamour in startups. I didn't even know what a startup was. I'd never heard of Y Combinator. But we did start tossing around ideas from an early time. And in about 2010, I think, Jules rang me up in a fit of excitement and she said, "Dude, I've got it." And I'm like, "Go on then." She's like, "Well, I've just spent like 4 hours online trying to book a piano tutor because I want to brush up on my piano skills. And it was really frustrating because I kept ringing people and they didn't do it anymore. And then I was on all these like really shite sites." And she's like, "I just totally think we should start a school for music." And I was like, "Yeah, no, it's just too small. And what do we know about music? No, veto." So that was 2010, and then in 2011, Jules is like zipping around the planet. I think she's working in the Cayman Islands, and then in state of Georgia, and then she'd fly to Kolkata, and she'd do this kind of like circuit every 3 weeks. And I'm convinced our original idea, came out of like delirium, of like not sleeping. But she got back from Calcutta and she's like, "Look, I had a dream." And you know the whole idea of the School of Music? Well, I was thinking about it. My dad's a driving instructor. And I realized, just like I had all those problems finding the piano tutors, and therefore the piano tutors are going to have a hard time finding me, that applies to so many other things like driving instructors and babysitters and tutors and cleaners. And she just listed off all of these things. And I was like, "Okay, right, now you're talking. This sounds a lot bigger." And then we were like, "Right, eBay of local services, that's what we're going to build. So this is great, right, because we've got an idea. But we still haven't left our corporate jobs. And in fact, we didn't leave our corporate jobs for quite a while after this, and we both left for different reasons at different times. But we had to kind of get started, right? So we're writing business plans in our spare time on a Sunday, called it Innovation Sunday. Write a business plan. We're going to write a business plan. We're going to go and find the money, a la Dragon Den style. We're going to get that money, and then we're going to go hire some developers in India, and they're going to build this thing, and we're going to become rich, right? It doesn't work like that. There is no money without some kind of like traction or like idea, you know, sort of MVP beyond that. And so Jules rings me up one day and she goes, "Are you sitting down?" I'm like, "Not really." She's like, "You might want to sit down for this one." So I was like, "Right, okay, what have you done?" I'm used to Jules being quite bloody-minded. And she went, "Well, I bought a book. It's called The Lean Startup. And I read it, and I've decided that I've quit my job at PwC." And I was like, "Excuse me?" She's like, yeah, it's fine, because I'm going to teach myself to code." I'm like, "What?" So she's like, yeah, and I was like, "Dude, you're totally on your own. I'm not following you. You're mental. See you in a bit." And sure enough, she spent a month in a bedroom teaching herself how to code. And she bought a book so that she didn't copy and paste from the internet, so she had to physically figure it out from the book. And so about a month later, she rings me up and she's like, "I've done it. I've built Twitter." I'm like, "What? Twitter already exists." She's like, "Yeah, no, it's all right, because I'm going to fix it, and I'm going to build Teddle." And do you know what? To her credit, Tom as well, because Tom got in on the action with this whole learning to code thing, they built Teddle. And that was the name of our first startup. And it's called Teddle because Jules had a dog called Ted, and we wanted a word that didn't mean anything, and it kind of sounded like Google, and we thought that was a fairly decent place to start, right? Obviously, we changed it, so by this point, right, so we've got Jules living off savings, and me and Tom still at work. So we've got this dream, but me and Tom are still working, and Jules is rapidly running out of money. And we just couldn't see how we were ever going to kind of make this thing come to life. And so Mark Littlewood hosted Eric Ries at the BLN event in the Mermaid Centre, and Jules and I decided we'd go along. So we went along, and it was being sponsored by these fellas at Springboard, and everyone was like, "Oh yes, Springboard." So bear in mind, like, I'm suited and booted with my little backpack on, as consultants wear, and we like go in there, and like everyone is in hoodies and jeans, and we stand out a mile. So we're just kind of like back in the corner, just hanging out. Everyone's like, "Yes, Springboard, yeah." And we're like, "What the fuck is Springboard?" So we get out our archaic iPhones and we look and we're like, "Oh my God, it's an accelerator. What's an accelerator?" And then we wiki accelerate and we're like, "Oh my God, this could be the answer." So we spend 17 hours, I kid you not, 17 recording a 2-minute application video. And I have no idea how we did it, but we got through that round, and then we had to pitch a la Dragon's Den style. And I was sitting in a ski lodge in ski boots in France pitching over the phone, but not realizing that you didn't need to shout into Skype, so the kind of lasting memory is of me yelling across Skype to these people we didn't know in a room. Anyway, after all that, they picked us. Out of 500 teams, we were 1 in 10, and we got into Springboard. And so Springboard Accelerator gives you lots of mentorship. It gave us £15,000. We built an MPP. We did all this really cool stuff that literally, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be here. But as we're going through it, we still didn't really have any customers, and we didn't really have any traction, even though we got this lovely MVP, and everyone really liked us, and they thought, "Oh yeah, 2 girls, they're pretty funny." And so Jules and I decided, Tom, by the way, PS, conveniently goes on holiday this weekend. We decided that it's the Queen's Jubilee, and there was going to be hordes of people at street parties. So we go to Costco, and we buy shed loads of Pims, and we go out with our iPads, and we basically stand on the street trying to sign people up. And we basically faked our way to demo day, is essentially what we did. And Jules, and every time I'd turn around and be like, "Where's Jules?" she'd just literally be stood on the riverfront in Putney, just drinking the Pims. I'm like, "Dude, that's not the idea." And she's like, "Yeah, but I can't talk to people." She's quite an Irish. So we got our sign-ups, and we're just like, oh, you know, we go to demo day, we do a rousing speech, and it's all brilliant, but no money, right? Because, let's be honest, it was a bit shit, and we still didn't have any traction. And everybody needs, in this fairy tale that I'm telling you, a little bit of serendipity. Our serendipity came in the form of Sarah de Hume, the wonderful lady that, for some reason, after all of this, decided she was going to give us £50,000, because we were 2 women, and Tom, and she didn't really explain why, but she just said she thought we had something, so she gave us £50,000. So that was great. We got a lifeline, and then Neil Davidson basically rang me up and he said, "I've decided to give you £25,000." And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Well, I polled all the teams in Springboard and said who's likely to succeed, and they said you, so here you go." And I was like, nice. And then Chris Mayers rang us up and said, "Hey, Alex, I'm going to give you £10,000. And I was like, "Why?" He was like, "Well, I think your idea is fucking shocking, but I like you. So there you go." And so I was like, oh my God. So we'd raised £85,000. Boom. Lifeline. So we've got an MVP. We've got some money to buy some customers and kind of get this thing working through, right? And then for the love of Paul Smith at Ignite, he found us office space with these 2 reprobates, Mills and Sinks, who own one of the best design agencies in London. So we get this awesome, cool office space. So we're just like cooking on gas, and I'm like so excited about everything. And then we spend 6 months in there, and Tom and Jules every day frantically coding, building more and more and more of this like eBay for local services. And every time something goes wrong, we build something else, and it's great, and they feel fab. And meanwhile, I'm in a cycle of absolute desperation and depression, because we are flatlining, as in like no bookings, and I cannot, for the love of me, raise any more money. I've tried for 6 months, I get a round together, I'm about to sign the round, and then it all falls apart because the government introduced SEIS, Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme. I'm not Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme, I'm EIS, so then everyone goes, no, we don't get any tax rebates, so then they bugger off. So we're down to like our last £100, and it come back from this one particularly dreadful meeting, and I'm like seriously suicidal. I'm drinking a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc every night, eating Chinese every night. Most people lose weight when they get stressed. I put it on. I was like ballooning. And I just turned around to Tom and Jules and I was like, yeah, done. I'm out. I'm going back to Accenture. This is not working. And Tom, being Tom, who's like super calm and considered in a crisis, just goes, let's just sit down. Let's work through it. Let's look at the data. So that's what we did. So we looked at all of our data, we analysed it top to bottom, and it was remarkable. 75% of all of our traffic that we were sending to the site were looking for a domestic cleaner. So we were like, holy shit, this is a big revelation. And then we were like, no, it's not. This is the hardest thing in the world. And it's true, because suddenly we went and researched the market and looked at cleaning and thought, oh, this is brilliant, and all these crappy agencies that take all this money and treat the cleaners like shit, and you know, you can't book them online, and oh my God, it's amazing. And then we were like, yeah, but none of them speak English, and they don't use smartphones, and we were just like, this is ridiculous. And anyway, we tossed a coin and we said, right, bollocks to it, all in. We worked every single day, day and night for 2 weeks over Christmas and New Year, including New Year's Eve. We were online toasting each other and testing in UAT on New Year's Eve. We put the site live on the 2nd of January, and we got more bookings in that first 3 weeks than we'd ever had in the past year. And it was just like, oh, you know, this is amazing. I have a business. And you're like, amazing, right? Brilliant, except we might have done more bookings than ever, but we were still not driving any traffic. Now this here is 10,000 hits in one day. Now that happened after we basically went out one night and got absolutely wankered. Came into the office the next day and we went to write a blog about cleaning, and instead Jules and I wrote a blog that's entitled "The Shit That TechCrunch Doesn't Tell You." And it was basically a blow-by-blow account of literally a true story in our life. Google it, you'll find it. And our site nearly crashed, and Hacker News took us down because they thought that we were gaming the system, because it went to the top of this in like 30 minutes. It was like, boom, there, and Brits don't do that, apparently. So then, in comes the fairy tale. Oh, serendipity again. After months of stalking Ron Zegheim, the chairman of Halo, I managed to get a meeting, convince him that we are Halo for cleaners, and get his mates to put in $400,000, literally in a few weeks. So, momentum, right? So we're off, and we're doing amazingly well. And like in any good fairy tale story, what happens? The big bad wolf comes along and ruins everything. And this happened to us at Dublin Web Summit, when one of our US competitors, Handy.com, or wasn't Handy, it was HandyBook at the time, he's like all smooth talking, he's like, hey, yeah, let's have a drink, and I'm like, yeah, because I'm like not worried, right, because these guys have only raised $1 million, we've raised 400,000, not that bad, they're not really cooking on gas, or so I think, and then I meet him, and the first words out of his mouth was like, oh my God, do you know that Homejoy's just raised $40 million? I literally, the room just went, and I came down the stairs and I'd gone red from head to toe. And Jules was like, oh my God, are you all right? I was like, we're dead. We may as well pack up and go home. So we went, we had a couple of whiskies in the pub, and we thought, right, we can do this. So we went into preparation mode. We did 6 weeks of preparation of telling the story and getting all of our ducks in a line. And then we went out and we did 3 weeks of solid pitching. We hit up the tier two firms first, so that we were like nice and ready, warming them up, getting some term sheets through. Then we hit up the big boys because they were not going to give us any money, but it was a marketing exercise and we wanted to get all the questions out and be shit hot. So by the time we got down to the actual A players in the market, we were like on fire. We were finishing each of the sentences, the jokes sounded natural, the figures were amazing. Boom, we get Excel partners after a really competitive process. If you don't know who they were the first investors in Facebook, tier one VC firm. Like, we're just like, it's the fairy tale. We raised $6 million. Oh. Thanks. Yeah, I know. I'm putting a lot of effort in here, guys. Give me something back. So at this point, you're like, oh my God, $6 million. You can call me Stephanie Jobs. But that's not true. Not true, because basically then, so Jules and I are drinking, she sends me the bank balance, and I'm on the tube, and I literally cry on the tube, and all these people are looking at me like, who's the freaky girl? And we go back to the office, we drink loads of champagne, I'm like, yeah, Stephanie Jobs, blah, blah, blah. Next morning, get up, full-on meltdown. Why? I don't know what a CEO is, or what they do, or what I should do. How am I going to deploy this money? What the fuck am I meant to do with it? Where are the people coming from? This is what we look like. There was 4 of us. And Helen, sorry, there was 5 of us. I don't know where Helen is. Probably not in the picture. So there's 5 of us. We've just been given $6 million, and we're meant to deliver from day one. What do? Well, first of all, you cry a lot, and then your husband comes up and picks you off the floor and goes, oh dear, what's happened, who died? And I go, nothing, I just got $6 million, and he said, and you're crying, why? So after that, he's like, Alex, you do what you do every time, you put one foot in front of the other, and you move forward, and that is exactly what we did, through trial and error, through amazing mentors that gave for no money, and for Lucy, our exec coach, who I hired when I realized I was slightly mad, we managed to build the team to 30 people in July, so just 3 months after we had the money, we got to 30 people. That's now at 50 people. I have some stats to tell you how great we are. We went from 100 cleaners to now well over 2,500 cleaners, and we've done over 350,000 hours of cleaning. We this clicker's not really good, is it? There we go. We only had a website, and we've now got a website and an app for every single device. We fulfill 98% of all requests that come to us. We were only in London when we started. We're now in Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, London, Dublin, Paris, Hamburg, and Berlin in the space of a year. We 10x our revenues in 6 months, and we've got over 12,500 5-star reviews. And we acquired a small company in Germany to help us do all of that. Somehow we're seen as thought leaders, which is hysterical. This is me on CNBC. I'm the chair of Codec. I'm sharing economy. Jules is like the face of Dublin. It's freaking hilarious, right? The most unrealistic people. We've won Entrepreneur of the Year, and every time you get that imposter feeling of like, what are they talking about? It cannot be me. But, so you think like the fairy tale's complete, but it's not, right? Because I didn't realize any of this shit until I was writing this presentation this morning and going, oh my God, look at all we've achieved. Because I spend the vast majority of my time thinking about everything that is wrong. Because it doesn't, every time you get money, everyone thinks it's going to solve things. But the thing is, it doesn't, right? The problems just become different, and the lows become much lower, and the highs become much higher, and the whole thing is much more emotional, and you're up and down, and you're up and down, and it never gets any better. So this, I just go now. So basically, I'm running out of time, but really, really quickly, you know, when we got the money in, the first thing that we realized is we had two massive American competitors that had both raised $40 million to R6. They were about to come to England and take over London. We saw them off. We're still the biggest in all of the markets that we're in. You know, no sooner have I wiped my brow from that, and suddenly, you know, the Samwas are starting helping rocket clone, and suddenly I've got a 50 million euro Goliath knocking down my door. It just never freaking ends. And you've got all this capital, and you're like, oh, do I outspend them? Do I not outspend them? Do I not expand? And you've no strategy. You've lost control because your board's in there, and it's not your company as much anymore. And it's just, and then you've got this whole team of people that you're meant to keep smiling to when really what you want to do is cry because you don't have the answers. I spend all my time hiring people, and that's literally all I ever do. And then it's really agonizing, right? Because you hire a person and then you have to fire them. The first person I had to fire, I like bawled for a good 10 minutes before I went in and did it. And Jules had stopped eating for 3 days beforehand. Like, maybe it's just because we're women, but we find this shit really hard. And then, like, maintaining culture. We had this amazing culture. Like, how do you get culture to scale? Because it's not tangible. And then, to put the boot in it, 2 months after I got this $6 million, I went on holiday, which was the biggest mistake, because I came back pregnant. And then I started to empathize with all those 15-year-olds that have too much to drink and go, oh, I thought I put a condom on. Anyway, now I have this like beautiful little girl called Harper Bell, and you know, I have to juggle being a mother and a CEO, and somehow I'm managing it, and the company hasn't gone under. So after all this, and I've run out of time, Herb wanted me to say what's next. And the truth of the matter is, I know what's next. It's a B round and a shitload more problems that I couldn't even anticipate and I don't have the answers to. But that doesn't mean it isn't brilliant. And that's the point, right? What I know is two things. I know you need vision and you need massive amounts of naivety. You need the vision to think big enough, to be innovative enough, and you need to be naive enough to think you can execute the shit out of it. And if you don't have the two, then you either give up or you haven't thought big enough. And I think I've got this in buckets because most people, I think, would have given up. So I can't tell you how the fairy tale ends. But potentially, I can come back and give you the next installment next year. I hope this has been somewhat interesting and entertaining. Thank you very much for listening.